These standards are led in prayer today by the gentleman from Union. Remain standing thereafter for the pledge.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this beautiful day that you've made. Thank you for being a loving and generous God that we can turn to you at any time, be it a time of celebration, a time of thanksgiving, or a time of need. Today, Lord, in this chamber, we come to you from all geographic regions of the state. We come to you with diverse backgrounds, yet we gather hopefully with one purpose, and that is to make the state of Mississippi the best it can be. We realize we cannot achieve that purpose without you. So we ask you to clear our minds and open our hearts that your will be done for the state of Mississippi. Lord, we ask you to be with our leaders of the state. Grant them the wisdom to guide us through this session and beyond. Please be with each person in this chamber. Be with their families and their constituents. Lord, may we glorify you today, and may our actions and decisions show the world that we are a state that is a beacon for all that is right and good. Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good job. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Has everyone voted? Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk.
There's a quorum present, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. We'll have the reading of the journal. The gentleman from Rankin moves we dispense with the reading of the journal. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Report of select committees.
We have none, Mr. Speaker.
Report of standing committees.
We have reports on the calendar, Mr. Speaker.
Introductions of bills and constitutional amendments. Gentleman from Marion, Mr. Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent to dispense with the reading of the introductions.
Is there objection? Hearing none, we will do that. Resolutions, petitions, memorials, and other papers.
We have none, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. At this time, we'll have the introductions of guests and visitors. Gentleman from Bolivar, Mr. Sanders. He passes. Lady from Forest, Ms. McGee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is my honor to get to introduce our doctor of the day. Once again, my dear friend, Dr. Anita Henderson, who is a pediatrician from Hattiesburg. She serves at Hattiesburg Clinic. She's also the president of the American Academy of Pediatrics, our Mississippi chapter. And also with her today in the gallery above my head is her son, Dr. Rand Henderson, who I have known since he was not doctor yet, Rand Henderson, who is a second-year med school student. I've known him since he was a baby, and his friend and classmate, who is also a second year, Dion Kevin from Oxford. So they are here. Please help me make them welcome. And then I also have Dr. John Godet, who is seated here on the floor. He is also a pediatrician from Hattiesburg and currently serves as a professor at the William Carey University Medical School. So we're glad to have all these good folks from Hattiesburg here with us.
Gentleman Tishomingo, Mr. Carpenter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the House help me and the delegation from Alcorn County make welcome Dr. Peyton Priest from Corinth. He is currently the president of the Mississippi Osteopathic Medical Association. Dr. Priest.
Gentleman from Madison, Mr. Bumgar. Passes. Gentleman from Marshall, Mr. Faulkner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the House please help me make welcome back to the Capitol today my good friend and constituent, former state senator, Mr. Bill Stone. Make him feel welcome.
Gentleman from Simpson, Mr. Wallace.
Introduction, Mr. Speaker. I'd like for the House to join my desk mate and I and welcome Angie Calhoun. She's up here in the South Gallery. She's a constituent of mine from Puckett. Thank you.
Lady from Madison, Ms. Ford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If you would turn your attention to the North Gallery, I'd like to introduce to you parents and also loved ones of those that have, their children have died of drug poisoning, and they want to stand in honor of their child and show you the picture of their children. Rick and Cordy Rodenbaugh, and their son was Parker. Paul and Janice Berlin, sons Devin and Eric. Amy and Bobby Curtis, son Michael. Sam and April Brown, son Sam Jr., Patrick and Dina Pygott, son Colton, Kim Case, daughter Callie, Janelle Johnson, daughter Jessica, Linda Dove, son Chris Ray, Melissa Ocho, son Sam, Maisha Leftover, granddaughter Molly, Dalray Martin, son Trey, and Tina Duran, husband Jose. And they would all like for us to support House Bill 607. Thank you.
Gentleman ranking Mr. Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, would you join me in the ranking delegation in saying hello to Ms. Dr. Victoria Ross? She is a ER physician at UMMC.
Gentleman from Harrison, Mr. Patterson.
Hold 1 second, please. Introduction, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. I don't know if they've been introduced. I've been on my phone, not paying attention, but they got William Carey Medical School is here. My daughter's a freshman at that school, and they got some of their students and faculty and doctors and staff over here in the North Gallery. I don't know if there's any in the South Gallery, but I'd like for everyone to make them welcome. Thank you.
Gentleman from Jackson, Mr. Barton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would everyone please help me make welcome some friends of mine from my power company, Singing River Power, in the South Gallery, Lori Freeman, Brian Huey, and Nick D'Angelo.
Any further introductions? I don't see any. We will go to the calendar. In conference, general bills, drug policy. Chairman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to call up item number 1, Senate Bill 2095, and ask to be recognized to explain the conference.
You're recognized, gentlemen.
We met with the Senate. They agreed with us that the unit would be reduced to 3 ounces per month. They agreed with us that the Department of Agriculture would completely be taken out of the bill. On the zoning issue for cultivators and processors, we changed it from not only industrial and agricultural, but we added the word commercial. And the Mississippi Municipal League had a problem with the commercial aspect of that, and so we tightened up that language. And what's found in the bill beginning with line 1533, this is the language that we came up with. A cannabis cultivation facility and/or cannabis processing facility may be located in any area in a municipality or county that is zoned as commercial or for which commercial use is otherwise authorized or not prohibited, provided that the municipality or county has authorized the entity to be located in such area and that it being there does not violate any other provision of this chapter. The municipality or county may authorize this by granting a variance to an existing zoning ordinance or by adopting a change in the zoning ordinance that allows for those entities to be located in specific commercial areas. So with regard to the commercial zoning of the cultivators and processors, we're basically allowing home rule, allowing the municipality or the county to decide whether or not they wish to allow that. And so that is an explanation of the conference report. If there are no questions, I would move adoption.
Any questions? Lady from Madison, Ms. Ford.
Gentlemen, do you yield?
I do.
Just help me understand this a little bit better. So you added the commercial zones in the municipality in the bill that passed last week on this floor. Does the conference report contain that language at all?
It still says commercial, but the local authorities can determine whether or not they wish to allow that.
So it's not mandated, correct?
It's not mandating commercial.
Okay, thank you so much.
Any further questions? I don't see any. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on the conference report, Senate Bill 2095. If you favor the report, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Everyone voted. Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By a vote of 103 yeas and 13 nays, report is adopted. Rules passes. Appropriations. Apparently he passes. All right, general bill. Any chairman have an item? Gentleman from Alcorn. Chairman of Judd B.
I'm calling up the committee. All right, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll go to item number 2 on the general calendar. I've got a committee sub in lieu of the original bill. I'd like to call that up.
Gentleman calls the bill up, moves the rules be suspended, bill considered engrossed, read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman moves committee substitute be adopted for consideration in lieu of the original bill. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman's recommended.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm bringing to you today is a lot of hard work, a lot of sweat and tears, and a lot of talking to people for the last 2 years. This is House Bill 607, and I want to explain it to you. It's a very simple bill with large consequences, I hope. We are creating an act to create the crime of controlled substance delivery resulting in death. Now, last year we had a crime, we had a bill similar that was called first-degree murder, where there was a homicide that was resulted through a drug-induced homicide. This does something a little bit different. So I'm going to read section 1 of the bill states that a person commits this crime. There's 4 elements to it. When there is an unlawful delivery of a controlled substance in exchange of anything of value to another person, and that results in that person's death. The second part of the bill is a Good Samaritan clause, which basically says if something happens, you can perform, you can help, you can call 911, you can get the doctors there, and you couldn't be charged. Now, the most important part of the bill that I think is the third part, section, well, just paragraph 3. It says that in exchange for anything of value, remember I told you that one of the elements is there's got to be an exchange of something of value to be prosecuted under. In exchange for anything of value does not apply to the act of sharing a controlled substance when the sharing results in the proximate cause of somebody's death. So what does that mean? This is the bill that we've been following in Rhode Island. They've used it to prosecute about 5 or 6 people. What that means is the purpose is to protect the addicts. I want to protect those that are sharing the fentanyl, sharing these pills that are laced with fentanyl, and protect those addicts from that. I want to go after those that are up the chain. I want to get the drug dealers, those that are exploiting the addicts, the bad actors in our society that are taking advantage of this. So in order to do that, we put some legislative intent in this bill. And the legislative intent is paragraph 4, which says this bill is to assist in prosecuting any person that sells or otherwise profits from the sale of a controlled substance that causes the death of another person. It is not the intent of this legislature for the provisions of this section to be used to prosecute a drug user or drug addict who has shared a controlled substance with a friend or associate, and the friend or associate dies as a result of that sharing. So we put that legislative intent that is our intent. We don't want addicts. We want those that are profiting on those addicts. We want like I said, the bad actors. And Mr. Speaker, I have an amendment to, at the proper time.
Recognized for your amendment.
All right, Mr. Speaker, the amendment does 2 things. I am putting a 3-year repealer in this bill. Okay, so I want to watch it. I want this House to watch it, and I want the intent to be followed through, and that is the intent that I don't want to prosecute the addicts. I want to prosecute the dealers. I'm also requiring that peer provide to the House Judiciary B and the Senate Judiciary B a report every year telling me who's being prosecuted under this offense. Again, I'm serious about fentanyl. I'm serious about going after these dealers. I'm also serious about getting addicts the help they need. I'm also serious about taking care of those that we can take care of and save those that we can. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not, well, let me, Your Honor, that's, Your Honor, sorry. Mr. Speaker, that's the amendment.
Thank you. Any questions on the amendment? A gentleman from Smith, Mr. Tullis.
Mr. Speaker, I have a question on the actual bill itself.
All right. Gentleman from Washington, Mr. Hines. All right. Any questions on the amendment? I don't see any. If you favor the amendment, indicate by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Let's have it. Back on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Back on the bill, ladies and gentlemen, we have an epidemic among our ranks with these pills being laced with fentanyl, with heroin being laced with fentanyl. They're even taking marijuana leaves now and dipping it down and lacing it with this fentanyl. I can tell you in Corinth, Mississippi, where I live, I've got a client who has told me he can get enough fentanyl that will kill 3 people. He can get enough that will kill 3 grown men for $10. Okay, and that's the price of doing business for these folks, and that's what we've got to do. Fentanyl is now the #1 killer of people between the ages of 18 and 45. More people have died in that age range from fentanyl than they have from COVID. It is a serious thing, and I want this House to stand up and provide the people that are here in the galleries. I want them to know that we're here for them, that we're here, we're their state, and we got their back. They have suffered an unimaginable loss, and I do not possess the grace in my tongue to provide them any comfort. But I can do this. I've looked at mamas and daddies for the last 2 years. They've showed me pictures of their kids. This is a burden that they bear, and as a lawmaker and as a citizen of Mississippi, it is a burden that I bear. I want to end this. People are exploiting our children. People are exploiting the addicts. It's time Mississippi said enough and to tell our people that we got their back. Mr. Speaker, that is an explanation of the bill.
All right, questions on the bill. Gentleman from DeSoto, Mr. Eubanks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, I'm just a little concerned. If you have, just to give you a hypothetical, if you have a bunch of frat boys and one of them picks up the narcotic or the drug and comes back and everybody reimburses him and there's financial exchange that takes place and somebody drops over dead and they just scatter because to call the hospital or try to get them help, they're afraid they're going to get charged with first-degree murder. Does that apply in that situation since monetary exchange has taken place? Somebody went and got it and brought it back. It wasn't just sharing, it was, they just were the runner.
No, it would not apply, and here's why. First off, it's got to be a direct sale. That's what the statute says. The second part of this statute that we took from Rhode Island had a part in it that would have affected the hypothetical that you're talking about. We took that part out. What this has to do with is a direct sale. Secondly, you've got a Good Samaritan clause in here. If they act in that, they're going to be protected. But again, I think that's going to qualify under the sharing provision of it, and the intent has got to be that direct sale going from the dealer to the end user.
Okay, follow-up question if you don't mind. If this is really about fentanyl, why didn't we just increase penalties for fentanyl and then we wouldn't have to worry about the hypotheticals? I mean, I'm just curious.
The session is not over.
A gentleman from Lowndes, Mr. Kareem.
Would the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
And gentlemen, it seems like you're very passionate about this particular issue, but explain it to me like a first grader. How are you going to track down the dealer if someone passes away? I'm trying to, because if if you use anybody, then you create another circumstance. I know you have the Good Samaritan, but what about now this individual might have to become an informant to get, I'm just trying to explain your thinking on this particular bill and how it works.
Yeah, I appreciate the question, gentlemen. I will say this, I've talked to law enforcement. They believe that they have the means necessary to do that. I think they do too, whether it be through a confidential informant like you're talking about or through other investigative measures. I think they're going to be able to track. And I do believe they have, for the most part in these communities, they know who the dealers are, not the sheriff, not the addicts, but they know who some dealers are that can help.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Gentleman on, Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With the gentleman here.
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, I understand what you're trying to do, but I got a little heartburn about a couple of issues. Number one, I'm looking at the bill, and you say it's about fentanyl. I don't see that in the bill.
It's not specifically, it says a controlled substance, an unlawful delivery of that controlled substance, which, you know, look, anybody can die of an overdose of cocaine and an overdose of pure heroin. They don't need to be dealing that stuff either.
Marijuana, controlled substance.
It is at the present moment.
You got Tylenol out there that have codeine in it.
If it is an unlawful delivery.
Okay, so if I go in my dad's medicine cabinet and get his Tylenol out with codeine, and I'm trying to make a few extra bucks and I sell it to my neighbor, he got a heart condition, he passed away. I'm getting 20 years to life.
You could be charged under it, yes, sir. Under the straight elements of the crime, yes, you could be. You know, we want to, that's a situation that we have to deal with, as you know, as an attorney, that we have to deal with. People selling these things and people do die. It doesn't give them an excuse to sell it, just because it's a over-the-counter medicine.
Another hypothetical.
And I think you could possibly be charged with some of that now, but go ahead.
Sports, big in Mississippi, young athletes, they want to be the best they can. Football team get together and a guy say he got some anabolic steroids that he can sell other football players or basketball players. Overdose on that. He also facing life, 20 years of life.
That guy doesn't need to be selling anabolic steroids. And you know, what the position is now, he can still be charged. I don't know what that would be just under a sale. He's probably still looking at 20 years.
And gentlemen, you're a criminal lawyer.
Yes, sir.
Been practicing law many years. High-profile criminal cases. You've dealt with overzealous prosecutors, have you not?
And that's the purpose of, yes, I will answer that yes and let you follow up.
And with overzealous prosecutors, sometimes they use a law that's not really intended to force people to take plea bargains that they really shouldn't take. People end up in jail a lot longer. Do you have any fear that some of these overzealous prosecutors out here is going to abuse this statute?
My understanding is exactly yours. Yes, I do believe that there is some potential for prosecutorial misconduct in any crime that we have on the books. But in this situation, and just like I prefaced it when I was introducing the bill, you know, I think I've got it about as airtight as I can get it. We've got the sharing in there for the addicts. We've got the safe harbor provision. Pierre's going to provide us with the report, and we've got we put the 3-year repealer in it. I don't know how else I can try to accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish without doing what we're doing. And people are dying too much.
And gentlemen, I totally understand that every law, like you said, can be subject to prosecutorial misconduct. But you have to admit that it's different when I'm facing 5 years under the statute and when I'm facing life in prison under the statute. That's a lot more punitive, wouldn't you agree?
And this is 20 to life, yes. But I do agree with you, but also under this provision, I think there's an issue about parole eligibility a little bit more. But I fully share your concerns. I believe that our laws, especially the criminal laws, should be a shield for the innocent. And that's what I'm trying to accomplish, and also punish those bad actors.
And gentlemen, let me pick your legal, since I got this gift of mine at the well. legal mind a little bit more. I looked. I'm not aware of any quote-unquote non-violent criminal offense that a person can get 25 years to life. Most of the time that's reserved for murder, for rape, for armed robbery. I mean, are you aware anywhere else in our statute that?
And I wouldn't necessarily qualify this as nonviolent. There is a death that is occurring to get that 20 years.
Okay. Manslaughter, what's the?
20.
20 for manslaughter.
When it's, but bottom of this one.
So, and many times people convicted of manslaughter and they use a firearm, correct?
Could be,
They
it
knife,
could be accidental.
things
sure.
of that nature.
In some
So,
way.
under this statute, a person who actually killed a person with a gun may get less sentence than someone under this statute.
You know as well as I do, the facts dictate the sentence.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Gentleman Smith, Mr. Tullis.
Gentlemen, will you yield?
Yes, sir.
I support this bill. I support your intent with this bill. I just have a couple of questions because, you know, some bills have unintended consequences. The question of unlawful delivery, as far as that definition, in the state of Mississippi as well as throughout the United States, law enforcement uses a tremendous amount of confidential informants. And what they'll do is they'll schedule a buy with the potential user, and they'll actually give drugs to the confidential informant to go out, deliver the drug, and receive payment for it. And the confidential informants do that to receive a lighter sentence.
Sure.
So they're getting something of value. The CI is getting value or something as a result of doing this for law enforcement. In the event a CI delivers a narcotic or drug to a potential user or whatever, and that individual uses that drug and dies after the CI leaves, the question of, first of all, unlawful delivery, I'm kind of confused about what that definition is. I don't know of any drug that's delivered that's lawful.
Yeah.
And so I can see situations where a CI could be the scapegoat for somebody dying when law enforcement actually delivers the drug. Would there be culpability on a CI or law enforcement in the event somebody passes away or dies because of the use of a drug?
Let me say it this way first. You know, I don't think, and we've had this discussion a lot in here, I don't think you can create a bill for every single hypothetical. I think that's fair to say. But in your situation, I think you're exactly right. The definition is going to depend on what is unlawful and how that's going to be interpreted by the court. Any lawyer could argue that both ways. In your hypothetical, my position would no, there would not be, because it was not unlawful. It was done under the color of law by a confidential informant.
Thank you.
Gentleman from Bolivar, Mr. Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentleman, yeah.
Yes, sir.
I was listening at it, and I just heard all the language that was being talked about, and I heard you say you had numerous of cases dealing with this. Am I saying that correctly?
Ask that again, I'm sorry.
I said you've had cases dealing with this particular situation.
I have clients that have, not necessarily dealing with this situation, but who have told me the availability of a lethal drug like fentanyl in my hometown, yes.
Okay. You and I both know it depends on the investigation of our law enforcement. And you said you had a lot of dialogue with law enforcement about this. So I know it's very vital that those cases are presented to the DA's office in the essence of what you should be presented. And I do understand too that there should be some consequences behind certain things that occur when it leads to a death. And I do coincide with the families and everyone that's present here today because I've worked numerous of cases dealing with the drug dealers. And I prosecuted a lot of drug dealers. But I know you have to work that in its entirety, and you have to present a good case on that. So with it being unlawfully, and things of that magnitude. I heard you said earlier that the bill is not finalized, I guess. I mean, we're still here in session. But I would think that we may need to look at some more things as it relates to it.
Happy to work with, like I tell anybody, I have no pride in authorship in anything, and happy to put the best product out here that we can to accomplish this goal. This has been a lot of people have had input in this, including the families above, including mental health professionals, drug advocacy, addiction centers, in fact, that's where I got one of the bills from, was one of those groups, and we put our heads together trying to help this, along with law enforcement prosecutors. So a lot of people have had input. I welcome yours.
Gentleman from Forest, Mr. Watson.
Is not order. If the gentleman would yield.
Yes, sir.
In considering this legislation, is it understood that there is some type of coercive conduct involved with the person making the exchange?
Ask me that again, because I couldn't hear the...
Well, let me ask it in a different way.
Okay.
The person who receives the controlled substance, is that individual a knowing and willing participant in the transaction?
Could be. I don't know that they're knowingly participating in getting a drug that could kill them. They may be an addict. The addict may purchase this from a dealer, yes.
But the person who's receiving the controlled substance is aware that he or she is receiving an illegal substance.
They are aware that they're receiving an illegal substance, but they may, and more than likely not, aware that this substance could kill them, and I don't think that they're consenting to be killed.
I got you. Okay. Now, how many states have adopted similar legislation?
But this one came from Rhode Island. There is a federal law that we actually passed last year, the gentleman from Tate's bill that we passed, and it ended up going to the Senate and did not get there. I cannot tell you a straight number of states. I do know that there's a federal statute that's much harsher than this, and I know that this comes from Rhode Island, and there are other states. Florida has a state. Florida has a statute. Tennessee has some, along with some other ones. So it's being looked at nationwide.
Are you concerned that this statute, as it's drafted and as it's before us now, is somewhat vague? I mean, in just making reference to a controlled substance.
No, I don't, because I think those controlled substances are listed in our statute. And I think that those are specified in our statute. Gentlemen, I promise to you, I believe this is the best bill in the country going against these potential fentanyl deaths.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Jump from Pike, Mr. Porter.
Mr. Speaker, I have an amendment at the proper time.
All right. Lady from Hines, Ms. Summers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Wanted to camelback off of my colleague's line of questioning around the vagueness of this bill. On lines 25 and 26, it states, for purposes of this act, the phrase, in exchange for anything of value. Anything of value. What does that mean, anything of value? Are we talking food, clothing, things like that?
Anything of value that is not being exchanged by those that are sharing the drug. But what it is, the intent of that is money. The intent of that is those dealers that might, like I said, use this to get something.
And I know that you said we can't legislate every hypothetical. I just wanted to throw another hypothetical at you.
That's okay. I'm a lawyer. We deal with them.
Okay. A young mother, a young single mother gets her hands on some drugs and just trying to feed her family, and she exchanges that for a ride to work. Would that be considered under this bill for the punishment?
Again, your facts are going to drive everything, but in your hypothetical, I guess it depends on if the person she rode to work with passes away. The intent of it is a direct sale, okay? Is a direct going from one person to the end user. So she goes on this ride to sale as the person who's driving her, the end user of that, and then they somehow pass away. It depends on, I don't think that would classify as a thing of value. That's going to be a judgment call for a court.
Okay. I appreciate the intent of this bill, and my heart goes to the families who have lost loved ones due to this.
It's a difficult subject and a difficult bill. I realize that, and I thank you for it.
But I do think it needs to be tightened up a little bit. Thank you, gentlemen.
Gentleman from Hines, Mr. Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Simple question. Has there been any consideration on considering fentanyl test strips?
I know, that's a great question, and those, I know you've filed a bill on that, and I'm in favor of taking those off of the controlled paraphernalia list, and I know the Senate has a bill to do that, and I've talked to the Senate about that, to send that over to us, and it is my hope that they do, because I think that goes a long way in our mental health advocacy groups. It goes a long way in our health crisis centers to help them determine what's out there. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, sir.
Gentleman from Washington, Mr. Hine.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentleman, you.
Yes, sir.
So, I am interested in dating this young lady, and we've had these very precarious conversations, and I think I'm going to get lucky. So I purchased a ecstasy pill, not knowing that it has been laced with fentanyl, and we have an intimate interlude. I have received something of value, and I've given her that pill, and she dies. What happens to me?
You received it from, you were not.
I got something of value now. I did get something of value.
I'm a good Baptist deacon, gentlemen. You did get something of value, but it's got to be that direct sale, going from the dealer to it's got to be that direct sale. So in that situation, yeah, you got something of value, and you see that something may have happened to her, or she may go into some type of shock or whatever the case may be. You're going to call 911, and you're going to perform some type of CPR. You're going to get some help, and you're going to be shielded from liability based on that. I know how you are. You're going to take care of your people.
Well, I'm just trying to make sure somebody who had no intent of doing any harm end up doing something, because this is happening every day on college campus.
I understand. It is.
And so, and this particular, also, what are your thoughts on over in an election year, overzealous prosecutors trying to prove a point that they're tough on crime, and they go after the very scenario I just talked about. That person, could that person be charged with that if it's up to the DA?
I don't think so. I really don't. And that's the purpose of some of the stuff, the safeguards that I put in here. Yes, I agree. Everybody in this House knows that I believe that yes, there can be some zealous prosecution. Like I said earlier, that can happen with just about any law we have on the book now. And I've realized we're asking to put something else out there. But I do not believe the way that it's written, as tight as I possibly can make it. And I'm open, gentlemen. If you have any ideas on how to make it tighter, if anybody does, I'm for it. I want to get this under control, and I want to send a message that Mississippi, if you come here and you kill our people, we're going to make you pay for it.
So why you just didn't say fentanyl?
Well, because fentanyl.
But hold on. Let me finish my question. Why you didn't just say fentanyl? Because see, fentanyl can be put in heroin. Fentanyl can be put in LSD. ecstasy, fentanyl can be put. In fact, the number one killer right now, people who are ODing on heroin, is fentanyl.
That's right.
And so, I mean, why we would just not say fentanyl and just lace it straight out like that and not just leave it up to a wide open interpretation?
Because people don't just die of fentanyl overdoses. And people just don't die of being given an illegal drug just because it's laced with fentanyl. They can die on a straight up cocaine overdose. You know that. They can die on a straight up heroin overdose. You know that. It's one of those things that just because it's not laced with fentanyl, the person that sold it to the person using the heroin that's not laced with fentanyl, that seller does not need to be shielded from liability. That person needs to go to prison too.
So, gentlemen, can you tell us the statistics over the last year or two of deaths related to this particular subject?
The statistics of what, I'm sorry?
The deaths that are related to this particular subject.
About 40,000.
In this state?
In this state, I don't have that number, but in the country, it's about 40,000.
All right. Thank you.
Gentleman from Grenada, Mr. Horan. Passes. Gentleman from Hines, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gentleman, yield, please.
Yes, sir.
I just have a couple of questions that I'd like to.
Yes, sir.
Like for you to help me get straightened out in my mind. First and foremost, I did not see anything in this bill that where you had consulted in a big way with sheriffs, coroners, chiefs of police, all the law enforcement people that probably needs to sign on to this, indicating perhaps there is a problem in their jurisdiction. I didn't see that in the bill, and of course I'm concerned about the word proximate cause of death. That's kind of like speculative to some degree, I would think. Subjective or something. It's not.
It's an attorney word.
I know, but it's not definite, and I was just wondering about that word. And then finally, I'd like for you to tell us, what's the origin of fentanyl? Is that a...
It's an opioid.
I'm talking, is it chemically made or is it synthetically made? Is it made in a kitchen bathroom?
You're gonna get me telling stories, but I believe it's a synthetic opioid that is made and manufactured through pharmaceuticals.
Yeah. Well,
as to your question about the sheriffs and the law enforcement
and the coroner
and the coroners, we had hearings, gentlemen, about 2 days worth of hearings back in the summer on this issue. We had law enforcement agencies there. We had Sean Tyndall, the Commissioner of Public Safety, chimed in. You're going to see some other bills, hopefully, that we're going to push through on some of the ideas that they had. We also had members of, we had the parents who lost people. We also had parents that lost people who wanted to make sure we protected the addicts. We had addiction counselors there. So I feel like we have vetted it quite a bit with all the relative players. Yes, sir.
About approximate the word.
All right, I don't see any further questions. Gentleman from Pike indicated he had an amendment. I'm going to recognize him for his amendment. You recognize, gentleman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank the chairman for his work on this bill, and also like to say that I give condolences to the families as well. My amendment is very simple. We've been talking about fentanyl. The gentleman from Holmes has brought up a lot of situations where fentanyl may not be, people can be charged with first-degree murder, and fentanyl was not in play. So what my amendment does is it removes controlled substances and it replaces it with the word fentanyl. I think if we're going after those who are selling this drug that has killed over 40,000 individuals in this country, then let's narrow the bill down to just that fentanyl. That's my amendment, Mr. Speaker.
Recognize the chairman to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First off, let me correct something that is on the screen. It's, the original bill was a first-degree murder. This is creating a new crime called controlled substance resulting in death. So it's not a, I don't think it would fall under that first-degree aspect of it, if that clears anything up for people. Secondly, as to his, as I said, yes, we have a problem with fentanyl. We also have a problem with other people dying of unlawful controlled substance from one way or another being OD. Those people and those people who have died and their families just because it wasn't laced with fentanyl, I believe need to have some relief and some recourse as well. I'm going to ask that you oppose the amendment.
Recognize the author to close on his amendment.
Again, I think in an effort to narrow this bill down and tighten it up, we need to just remove controlled substance and include the term fentanyl. And I actually do support the amendment.
All right, question now occurs on amendment number 2. If you favor the amendment, indicate you're saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. No. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. Anything further on the bill? Gentleman moves final passage. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 607. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Has everyone voted? Close the machine, Madam Clerk. By a vote of 101 yeas and 7 nays, the bill passes. Any other chairman have an item we need to take up today? I don't see any. Oh, I'm sorry, gentleman from Petal. We were on the verge of adjourning. We were on the verge of going home. He's got a matter of urgent necessity that we got to take up today.
Not complicated, Mr. Speaker. If we go to item 39 on today's calendar, House Bill 1097.
39.
1097.
All right, gentleman calls bill up, moves the rules be suspended. Bill considered in gross read the third time, placed on final passage. All in favor say aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it. Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill will allow counties and municipalities to lease a space for a fire hall. Under current law, the counties can lease spaces for particular portions and for government use. And so their jails, auditoriums, civic centers, public libraries, gymnasiums, public building courthouses and such. And we're just simply adding that they may lease a property to be used as a fire station. That's an explanation, Mr.
Questions on the bill? I don't see any. Open the machine, Madam Clerk. Question occurs on House Bill 1097. If you favor the bill, vote aye. If you're opposed, vote nay. Has everyone voted? Closed machine, Madam Clerk. By 116 yeas, 0 nays, the bill passes. Thank you, gentlemen. Anyone else have an item? All right, I don't see any. Announcements, Mr. Clerk.
We will have page pictures immediately after adjournment. If you have pages this week, please report to the front. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Announcements, Madam Clerk.
Constitution will not meet today. Local and private will meet 5 minutes after adjournment in room 103. Ways and Means Full Committee will meet 15 minutes after adjournment in 201H. Universities and colleges will meet at 3 and 204. On tomorrow, Judiciary A will meet at 8:30 and 113. Judiciary B will meet at 9 and 113. Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks will meet at 9 and 114. Appropriations will meet at 10 and 201A. Appropriations Subcommittee C will have a hearing with the Library Commission at 10:30 and 201A. Appropriations Subcommittee C will have a hearing with the Educational Television at 10:45 and 201A. Transportation will meet at 11 and 202. Appropriations Subcommittee C will have a hearing with the Emergency Management Agency at 11:15 and 201A. Appropriations Subcommittee C will have a hearing with Department of Education at 11:30 and 201A. Public Health will meet at 1 and 113. Public Utilities will not meet tomorrow. Appropriations Subcommittee C will have a hearing with Arts Commission at 1 and 201A. Apportionment and Elections will meet at 1 and 401A. Appropriations Subcommittee C will have a hearing with MDA Innovate Mississippi at 115 and 201A. Appropriations Subcommittee C will have a hearing with Department of Archives and History at 1:30 and 201A. Appropriations Subcommittee C will have a hearing with the Secretary of State at 1:45 and 201A. Accountability, Efficiency, and Transparency will meet tomorrow after adjournment in 103. Conservation and Water will meet 10 minutes after adjournment in 113. Ways and Means General Bills Subcommittee will meet 15 minutes after adjournment tomorrow in room 201H.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Announcements by the members. Gentleman from Bolivar, Mr. Sanders.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I just wanted to say thanks to the Capitol Police and all the men and women in blue. And you know, we had an incident right outside yesterday. They were right on top of it, so I just wanted to say thanks.
Thank you, sir. That's very appropriate. Gentleman from Capaya, Mr. Holloway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to hold Senate Bill 2095 on a motion to reconsider.
All right, we will do that. Gentleman from Newton, Mr. Rushing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Adjourn in memory.
Yes, sir.
I ask the House to adjourn in memory today of Mr. James Harris Addy. He was a veteran, small business owner, and friend and neighbor. Passed away today, and I appreciate the House helping adjourn in memory.
Thank you, sir. We will do that. Lady from Lincoln, Ms. Curry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to announce a tourism meeting tomorrow at 11 in the chamber.
Gentleman from Benton, Mr. Massengill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Transportation will not meet tomorrow.
Gentleman from Marshall, Mr. Kincaid.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, tomorrow we were scheduled to go on a shoot at Turcotte. Unfortunately, based on our schedule, we're going to reschedule that, so I'll be getting back with everybody, and thank you for the ones that RSVP'd, but we're going to set another date. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Gentleman from Lee, Mr. Aguirre.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to adjourn in memory. I'd like to adjourn in memory of Mr. Jeff Short, who was a constituent of mine and I've known and gone to church with most of my life. He was a former Green Beret veteran from the Vietnam War and a successful appraiser and realtor from Tupelo. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We will do that. Gentleman from DeSoto, Mr. Hopkins.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Adjourn in memory.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to adjourn in memory of high school teacher that was loved by his students, 27 years old, lost a battle to COVID, Mr. Hunter Herring.
Thank you, sir. We will do that. Lady from DeSoto, Ms. McRae.
Speaker, I would just like to thank the House for all their prayers, calls, texts, during my time of sorrow. At this time, you can expect this to happen, but it takes a while to accept it. So thank all of you for your support at my time of sorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, lady. Our thoughts and prayers continue with you and your family. Gentleman from Lamar, Mr. Tubb.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to adjourn in memory of Miss Nettie Johns. She was a fine, fine lady from Clinton, Mississippi, one of your constituents that passed away. She was a stellar person in the community.
Thank you, sir. We will do that. Any further announcements? I don't see any. I recognize the gentleman from Octavia Hall for the motion.
Mr. Speaker, I move this House stand adjourned until 2 p.m. tomorrow.
Heard the motion. I'm sorry, is there something further? I didn't see it on my screen. Gentleman from Capaya, you have something before we hit the gavel?
You got the mic on, Andrew? Okay. Yeah, let me withdraw that motion to reconsider. I got the understanding I need it.
Okay. We will do that. All right, motion is to adjourn to 2 o'clock tomorrow. All in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. House adjourned till 2 o'clock tomorrow.